Welcome back to the Mad Spideyverse. I'm Mad Spidey. Thanks once again for tuning into my channel. It is time for another one of my statue collection. As you may or may not know, obviously I mention this every episode, just in case this is the first one you've seen. I basically have quite a large collection of my statue collection, quite large. A lot of small pieces, a lot of big pieces, but they're all done by a company called Bowen Designs, which was very prevalent in the mid to late 90s to early 2000s. Obviously, there's a lot of statue companies now. You just can't keep up with them all. But back in that time, they were the one. You know, they were pretty much. There obviously were other statue companies, not as many, but there were a lot of other ones. But yeah, like Bowen Designs was the cream of the crop. So I got heavily into collecting them back in that time. Obviously, they're not made anymore. I never did complete the whole lot. I actually tried to become a completionist, but unfortunately, getting harder, more expensive, rarer, things like that. Just, yeah, it is what it is. And obviously, you know, your collections change, you know, like I went from books to, you know, to statues to original art, and you can't, on my kind of budget, you can't do them all at the same time. So, but anyway, as I mentioned before, Bowen Designs, they basically had, or what I collected was the mini busts, which is obviously sort of smaller stuff, and then the full-size statues. Now I think I got way more mini busts than I did full-size statues. But yeah, pretty much I'm just going to be showing what I actually own. So, and just going through that. The other thing is, for my statue collection, once again, I'm absolutely honored, but I've actually been nominated for a CBCA award, which is the Comic Book Community Awards for YouTube creators. I'm up against some absolutely ginormous competition. As I said, no way in hell I'm ever going to win it, but I'm just honored to be nominated. So, but in saying that, I'm still going to continue because I still love revisiting all these statues and that. Obviously, they're all in storage, so not out on display. I can just look at them whenever I want. I have to sort of go down and, you know, grab one out and things like that. But anyway, let's get into it. So today is another mini bust. The one thing I will mention that I haven't really mentioned before about Bowen Designs is, even though they had multiple phases, which I have mentioned before, I think it was 5 phases. I think it had 4 or 5 phases it ended up being. It basically, the one good thing, even though they did redo a lot of characters, you know, they did the main ones. Obviously, your Captain America's, your Iron Man, your Spider-Man's, Hulk, and, you know, and all those sort of your main core characters. The one good thing, as I mentioned, that I didn't mention before, I haven't really mentioned before, is they did actually do quite a bit of actually dived in. They did a bit of diversity. They did some, not necessarily with the full size, they did a few sort of ones, but especially in the mini busts, they did some lesser known characters, which I thought was really awesome, because you know, you learn more about characters you don't know about already. So as I said, mainly in the mini busts, they did that. And I was actually able to get quite a few. And there was, as I said, like there were some characters that I'd never even heard of. Or never really seen in any kind of book or anything like that I'd owned. So it was really good to sort of have that diversity, instead of just getting the same old characters every single time. In saying that, you will find that there are, like, I know for argument's sake, Captain America was one of them, where literally they did, I think, something like 10 or 20 full-size statues where the poses were all like, yeah, up and down museum sort of style pose, and were very similar. And then I ended up, trying to get all of them anyway. And in saying that, it's sort of, you know, if you put them all up up next to each other, you can sort of see slight differences, are slightly different. You know, one might be classic, might be modern, or the ultimate version and things like that, but still very similar looking. But anyway, we'll eventually get to those once I dig them out. But the one I'm showing today is one of those characters is a lesser known character. Still people would know of her. It's obviously a female character. But not actually, yeah, as well known. Probably not as well known as her brother, anyway. So, we are talking about Satana. So whether you call it Satana or Satana or however you want to pronounce it. But she is the sister of Damon Hellstrom, which is son of Satan. So, yeah, one of those lesser-known characters. And obviously, her first appearance was actually in a one of the old sort of, I wouldn't call them treasury books. It was like the big sort of, like in a magazine-style comic books. So, I think it actually shows it on the side. Now, as I've said before, you quite often get first appearance or close to it as one of the pictures. So that's actually the first appearance there, which is Marvel Preview magazine, number 7, and then something that's a little newer at the time of release, and obviously the blurb of who actually she is. Now, in saying that, I actually noticed when I pulled out the box and I brought it up here, I'm like, you've seen before, they usually have a number. So whether it's actually fallen off or this might actually be my first artist proof that I may have shown. But in saying that, let's open it up and show you because I've waffled on for long enough. All right, let's get into it. As I've said plenty of times before, you can see the up written on there so you know which way to open her up. She's in one piece, so don't need to assemble anything. Alright. Very simple, but very nicely done base. So there she is. It's a very shiny top she's got on there, but you can see the base, like a big sort of demon-y skull sort of thing. But yeah, even just the detail in the hair. Obviously the back of the base is very boring, but still you're not going to be displaying it from the back. But yeah, very cool little mini bust. But yeah, let's have a look at the bottom. And yes, I was correct. So this one was actually a small run anyway. This was actually released of a worldwide edition of 700. So a very small edition for a mini bust. Because as I said before, mini busts usually were running 2,000 to 3,000 to up to 5,000 or 6,000. Whereas this one was only 700. So very minor. But this one actually is an artist proof. So I'm not sure the exact numbers, but generally artist proofs, they only usually make 5, 10, maybe 20 at the most. That from what I've heard of. I'm not 100% sure on the numbers, but it is a very tiny run. And artist proofs are generally done. They'll do a whole pile of artist proofs, as I said, 5, 10, 20, however many they do, just to make sure that everything is fine. Obviously, you know, the hair's fine, the paint's fine, and everything like that. And if it is all fine, they'll do the whole run. But the artist proof will be a different set. So there'll still be 700 of these that'll be numbered, but then there'll be obviously those artist proofs. So the edition ends up being, you know, 720 or 750 or whatever hell it happens to be. But yeah, that is Satana. Mini bust from Bowen Designs, limited to 700, but obviously mine's an artist proof, so a little bit rarer. But that is it for this particular video. Thanks once again for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you. Give me a thumbs up, chuck a comment if you wish to, and most importantly, don't forget to subscribe. And the other thing is, if you haven't already voted in the CBCA Awards or CBC Awards, I will leave the link down below. Please go. And I know there's been something like between 600 and 700 votes already, which is absolutely fantastic. If you haven't voted, please go and do it. So in saying that, hope you enjoy the rest of your day. From Satana and myself, Spidey out.